You can customize your Photoshop workspace by rearranging panels and by creating custom keyboard shortcuts, as I showed you how to do in an earlier movie. First, I'm going to set up my panels in a way that's efficient for web work. There's no single panel configuration that's best for all web tasks, but one approach is to start with the preset web workspace that ships with Photoshop CS4 and tweak that to suit your needs. You'll find a menu of preset workspaces over here on the right under the Workspace switcher, which is located on the application bar on a Mac and on the menu bar on a PC. The Workspace switcher is currently set to its default, the Essentials workspace, which sets up the panel configuration that you see here. I'm going to click on the Workspace switcher to see a list of the preset workspaces. Some of these presets control which panels appear. Others also affect keyboard shortcuts and menu items too. I'm going to choose the preset workspace labeled Web, and keep your eye on the panels so that you see that when I choose that workspace, a different subset of panels opens here on the right side of the screen. I think these panels are a reasonable starting point for web work, so I'd like to add the Layer Comps panel to this configuration that I'll be saving as a custom web workspace. To do that, I'll go to the Window menu and I'll choose Layer Comps. The Layer Comps panel opens with its panel group, the History panel and the Actions panel, and it also created a second inner column of panels here. I really don't want to have two columns of panels, so I'm going to take this entire layer group and move it to the bottom of that outer column. To do that, I'll click on this blank area to the right of the Layer Comps tab, and I'll drag all the way down to the bottom of the outer column, and when I see that light blue bar, I'm going to release my mouse, and puts the Layer Comps panel group at the bottom of this single column of panels. I'd like to save this configuration of panels as a custom workspace, but I also want to include in that custom workspace some keyboard shortcuts for the web that I created in an earlier movie. Let me show you those. I'm going to go to the File menu, and I'm going down to Save for Web and Devices. This is a command that you'll use often in your web work, and I customized the keyboard shortcut for this command to simplify it so that it's now just Command, comma on a Mac. That would be Control, comma on a PC. I also added a keyboard shortcut under the Layer menu to the new Layer Base Slice command here, where I added the keyboard shortcut F5. Now I want to save those keyboard shortcuts and this panel configuration as a custom web workspace. To do that, I'll go back to the Workspace switcher, I'll click, and I'll choose Save Workspace. In the Save Workspace dialog box, I'll type the name of the workspace. I'll call it My Web, but you can call it whatever you want. And I'll tell Photoshop what I want to include in this workspace. I want to include these panels in the locations that you see them here, and I'd like to include my keyboard shortcuts as they're currently set. So I'll check that too. If I had made changes to menu items, I could also include those changes here, but I haven't done so, so I'll leave this checkbox unchecked. And I'm going to click Save. And now the Workspace switcher displays the My Web custom workspace. Now let's say that I have some other work to do and I want to go back to my Essentials workspace. I can do that at any time by clicking the Workspace switcher here and choosing the Essentials workspace. And you may have noticed the panels change going back to the Essentials configuration. Then, say that later I want to go back to my web workspace. I'll do that the same way, going to the Workspace switcher and choosing My Web, which is my custom workspace, which appears at the top of this menu. I get a warning here about my keyboard shortcuts, and yes, I want to apply this workspace even though it's going to modify my keyboard shortcuts. I'll say yes, and I'm back to my custom workspace called My Web. What if you want to edit a custom workspace? Let's say, for example, that I want to close this particular panel group, character and paragraph, and not include that in this workspace. I'll click the panel menu on the right side of the character panel, and down at the bottom of that menu, I'll choose to close this entire panel group, Close Tab Group. And now I want to edit the My Web custom workspace to incorporate that change. So I'm going to go up to the Workspace switcher, and I'm going to choose Save Workspace again. And in the Save Workspace dialog box, I'm going to type the same workspace name that I had before, My Web. And again, I'm going to include panel locations and keyboard shortcuts and click Save. And I get this warning that I am replacing the original My Web workspace. Yes, that's what I want to do. And now I've successfully edited my custom workspace. And what if you want to delete a custom workspace? To do that, you go back to the workspace switcher. You have to switch to a different workspace. So I'll switch to Essentials this time, for example. And then you go back to the workspace again, and you choose Delete Workspace. Then in the Delete Workspace window, you can click this Workspace menu and choose which custom workspace you want to delete. And then you click Delete. But I'm actually not going to do that because I'd like to keep this workspace. So I'm going to cancel out of here for now. If you've been using Photoshop CS3, you may have noticed a couple of things that were different from that version of the program as you worked through this lesson. For one, the workspace switcher is located in a slightly different place in Photoshop CS4. It's no longer in the Tool Options bar. And some of the preset workspace names have changed. But the principle is the same. The workspace switcher provides a way for you to save a custom configuration of panels, keyboard shortcuts, and even menu changes if you want, that suits your web work or any other task for that matter, so that you can go off and do something else and then restore that custom workspace the next time you're designing for the web.